Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. It's the official podcast of thevikingage.com. My name is Chris Schad. I write for FanSided as well as zonecoverage.com. We do this right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We are also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. A special note, you're going to want to stay tuned throughout this show because we got a special code word. We're going to give away a book. And it's going to be a special book because we got the author right here. Our special guest for today's episode, a writer and editor at Vikings.com, and also an author of the children's book, Olivia the Brave. Her name is Lindsey Young. Lindsey, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on. I always enjoy it.
Sorry, I had a bug fly in front of my face. So the YouTube audience is like, what is he swatting at? No, I'm not on Aaron Rodgers special or whatever. It's just, South Dakota, bugs are going to get in. So you're on the show. Today we're going to discuss some of the better stories that have gone down at camp, because one of the things I like about your work is a lot of people are beat reporters. Everything's very newsy. You try to find out who people are underneath the helmet. So
absolutely,
I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. We're going to go into your foray about writing a children's book, and we're going to give away a copy. So all you have to do, if you're watching or listening to this, comment on the YouTube video with the code word Olivia. We'll put that up on the screen at the end of the podcast. Or you can comment Olivia on the Viking Age X podcast, or Twitter account. X Twitter, it's the same thing. We'll draw one lucky listener or viewer to get a free copy of the book. So comment by Tuesday and you can get in. But first, we got a trade to talk about, and we got some players to talk about that stood out during training camp. The guys I want to talk about right now are Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and Elijah Williams. And the reason we're doing that is because the Vikings traded Harrison Phillips to the New York Jets on Wednesday night. The Patriots were very impressed by Jalen Redmond after the joint practices. I've heard Matthew Collar, friend of the show, talk about Levi Drake Rodriguez and the camp that he's having. And then Elijah Williams could win Mr. Mankato. And then there's Tyrion, I can't forget Ingram Dawkins, correct?
Ingram Dawkins, yep.
I was very confused, but Ingram Dawkins getting first team reps. I guess the first question I have for you is, watching these guys in training camp, how do you feel they have stepped up to the point where they've made Harrison Phillips expendable?
Yeah, it's hard to call a guy expendable, I guess. And if I can first just say, Harrison Phillips is going to be so missed here in Minnesota. He was great on the team. He was absolutely incredible in the community, which I know that we've talked before about, I think, even on this podcast, and just made such a tremendous impact with his Harrison's Playmakers Foundation. And so it is tough to see Harrison go. And for me, that's the hardest part of this job. And probably if it was up to me, I, would still be working with the same, 53 guys that I came up with, and stories would be getting really dull. And so, that's just not how it works. And, but certainly Harrison's been incredible. And I know that Kwesi and Coach O'Connell both said the same thing. And so he's definitely going to be missed here. There is a ton of depth in that room, and it's been a fun training camp for a number of reasons. And I know we're going to talk about a couple of other players too. But that position specifically, it's just been fun to see some of those young guys on the defensive line. And we can't forget as well that, the Vikings, of course, went out and signed Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave this offseason. And so those are two very veteran faces on the line, but new faces for Vikings fans. And then some of these young players have just their energy, their, I guess just their motor when they're out on the field is hard to miss. I think I think you mentioned at the beginning Jalen Redmond. This is his second season, I believe, and he's kind of been showing up here and there. He did last year as well. Levi Drake Rodriguez, like he has energy for days, and he is the type that he gets into the facility super super early in the morning. So I don't really know how he has energy for days because I am not a morning person. That is not me. But he just seems to always be full go, whether he is in a practice rep on the sideline, like coming in or out of practice, just seems like really, really driven. And I think with, kind of hearing some of his story, and last year and just I think he's so grateful about the opportunity and just so grateful about kind of where he's come from and not highly touted coming out of high school and now to be receiving this chance in the NFL. Like he just wants to make the most of it, and that's so clear when you watch him practice. Elijah Williams, like you mentioned, has been really fun and exciting to watch. He is a powerful dude. like but he also is quick. And so that's really fun to watch and obviously really important on the defensive line to see how much power he brings, but how he's also really athletic and quick. And then I'm excited about Ty Ingram Dawkins too. Like obviously a rookie this year. I haven't really gotten to know him yet. I haven't really gotten to sit down and chat with him yet. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully get to do that. But he always has a smile on his face and just always seems excited to play football. And Coach O'Connell and Coach Flores and Wes Phillips too. Like they're always talking about those are the types of guys they love who just are football guys. And I think you can really see that across the board in that room.
And I think the one thing that worries me, and I apologize for using the word expendable, but
No, no,
it's more of a football term when you're putting together the roster. It's kind of like, okay, we want to keep this young core
right.
together and we don't want to lose these guys. So it's like in the same place. It's like, okay, well, and I worry, this is just kind of my Viking fan brain going back in time, but 2018, the Vikings cut Brian Robinson. He's a locker room leader. I believe they wanted to keep Tyus Bowser at the time, and that didn't really pan out for him. But I feel like Harrison Phillips was the same way. We have a Jets fan on the RBN, and
Okay.
he sent me a message this morning. He goes, "What do I need to know about Harrison Phillips?" and I thought about it, and I was it's not that Harrison Phillips is like this big star and he's making all these plays on Sundays. He's a yeoman's guy. He's a guy that if you're going into battle, you want him by your side because he's reliable. He's a lunch pail dude, and he's one of
Yeah,
the best people off the field as well. But I said,
absolutely.
he's going to do his job. He's going to stop the run. He's going to be an awesome person off the field and get involved in the community. I find that to be kind of a loss for the Vikings right now. I also wonder if something else is in the works because we've heard rumors here and there. I'm not going to touch on anything because I know you work for the team and can't really comment on that. But I mean, there are rumors here and there about moves, maybe adding a receiver, maybe adding somebody else for some more depth. That's kind of what happens this time of year.
Right.
With Phillips, I just hope the young guys do come out, start the season, and really learn from the Jonathan Allens, really learn from
Yeah,
the Javon
right.
Hargraves, and those two guys, new guys in the locker room, step up as the season goes along.
For sure. And I mean, I think, it's fair and certainly important to comment on Harrison's leadership aspect as well. He was obviously one of the team captains. And so I don't want to lessen that impact whatsoever. It was definitely significant. And I think that is going to be missed. I think the Vikings have a lot of really strong leader type guys on the team, that even though that will be missed from Harrison Phillips, I think there are guys who will, fill that in, and continue to have that leadership role. And then as far as on field, right, I think we're going to kind of see what happens and see how these young guys do, but there is a lot of excitement around them, and I think, that they're all kind of guys who are sponges and wanting to learn, and to your point, to have, Jonathan Allen and Javon up front and like learning from them, I think is going to be so valuable. So I'm excited to see, certainly how things go. Of course, we have the third preseason game here on Friday night, and I know that preseason 3 might not be generally super exciting to fans, but I mean, this game means so much to some of these young players. And that's why I like watching it. Obviously, I would have to watch it regardless I'm working. But just to see which players are standing out, like some of these players don't get as many on-field reps during practice because those reps are going to be more front-loaded towards the ones and the twos, which makes a lot of sense. And so just seeing what they do with those reps, like in the game, is going to be really fun. And then I can't believe like how close we are to regular season and to see where this defense is going to go this year.
There's a reason why Hard Knocks is so successful, because it's not because the preseason games are like super important and like fun to watch for fans, but there is drama within the kind of scrimmage like feel, because you have
Yeah.
guys that are on the back end of the depth chart. You look at a guy like Josh Metellus. Josh Metellus got cut a couple years ago, and now
Which
he's
is
one of
crazy.
he's one of the leaders in the locker room.
Yeah.
You know, storylines can play out in the final game. And
100%.
those are things that we'll talk about in just a little bit here. But because you were at Vikings training camp, I
Yeah.
feel like I have to make our obligatory "How does JJ McCarthy look?" Question of the
Of
show. So,
course.
I mean, how has he handled this training camp on and off the field? Because there's a ton of pressure on him.
For sure.
There are the Aaron Rodgers rumors. Like, how is he handling his first training camp as a starter?
I honestly keep being like, I have to continuously remind myself that he's 22 years old because he just doesn't seem that way to me. In a good way. Like, I mean, he looks super young, he's 22, but like, it was Wes Phillips who said a couple days ago, or maybe it was just yesterday in his press conference, he said, I think that JJ in a lot of ways is kind of wise, but wise beyond his years. And I do see that, like just how he, um navigates that pressure. I think you're right that the pressure is there, but like he really sees it only as a positive thing, and only as, a motivating factor, I guess is probably the right way to say that. The thing I've been most impressed about with JJ is that I think he's had a really good camp. And on the days where he maybe had some ups and downs, or if he had a bad throw, he never seemed to me to get rattled. Like, and that, if there's a bad throw in practice, or if he gets picked off by, a DB or something, he is not kind of crumbling within himself. Like he's, looking at the replay, he's talking with coaches, he's figuring out what happened, he's talking to the receiver, and then he's going up to the next play and hitting it on the next one. And so I think that's really significant, especially for a player who's so young, because like bad things are going to happen in a game, on regardless of who you are, regardless of what team you're playing, like something bad is going to happen at some point. And it's to me, it's like, how do you recover from that and not turn it into like five bad things? And so he's been fun to watch. He's fun to listen to. It's also like really clear that even though he is very young, like that leadership piece that we were talking about, guys gravitate towards him. They see him as a leader. Even some of these more veteran players that we're talking about that are in years quite a bit older than him. I think, they see him as a natural leader. Like he just sort of has that um aura about him, I guess. And that's what you want to see in a quarterback. So I think it's really exciting. It's been fun to see him like have a really good rapport with Jordan. Addison has had a fantastic camp, and I know, of course, we're not going to have Jordan in those first 3 games, but he's had a really, really good camp. TJ has had a fantastic camp, and if you think about last training camp, before JJ hurt his knee, TJ was still rehabbing, so we didn't really get to see the two of them on field together. So there's a lot of good things, and I am pumped for the season.
The thing I've mentioned this before, what I like about JJ McCarthy is he feels like he's a quarterback that you it's like a PlayStation game. Like you buy the game and then you download the game. But like the download's like incomplete when you can play it. So it's just like this demo mode. And then
Sure.
it downloads the rest of it. And then you have the rest of the game. That's
Yeah.
what JJ McCarthy is like right now because he's got a lot of the intangibles already downloaded. He's a
For sure.
leader. I mean, you hear Aaron Jones talk. I mean, Aaron Jones unprompted will go on and on to you about JJ McCarthy.
Oh, of
Yesterday he was
course.
talking with Kay Adams, and he said, he reminds him of Aaron Rodgers by the way he treats people, by the way he, can diagnose a play and know where a blitz is coming and everything else. I think the mental is 100% there. This camp has been about getting the physical stuff down. And I wrote about this at Zone Coverage where I think we would all be happy if JJ McCarthy went out and threw like an 80-yard bomb to Jordan Addison in that first preseason game, and we'd have the stuff for the edits and
Right,
everything
right,
else. But I mean, also too, Kevin O'Connell wanted to see him do, as he called it, the boring stuff. He wanted
right,
to see how JJ McCarthy handles a offensive line. Can he get everybody on time? Can he get the snap
right.
off? All of
Exactly.
those little things. And I think he's been just building brick by brick to the point where it might not be September 8th. He's going to make the start, but he may not be 100% ready there. But like, is he ready, at peak form in October, November, when the Vikings are going to need him to maybe win a game or two? I think that's been the story. And so far, it's hard not to walk away impressed when you see how
Yeah.
McCarthy has handled this.
Yeah, I would agree. Like he impressed is a good word because he just seems to like be taking all the right steps forward, like soaking everything in. He's incredibly smart. He has been enjoying connecting with fans. Like he just has this calm presence about him that I think is really impactful. And like you're right, we'll see kind of what happens when the games, quote unquote start to count here. But I think that there's a lot to be really excited about with him. And it does speak volumes what teammates and coaches, just organically say about him, how they're drawn to him, the things that they see in him, and someone like Aaron, who has played with Aaron Rodgers, who's played with a lot of talented players in his career. And that's the case for a lot of guys in the locker room. And so it's fun to just see like how he has stepped into this role pretty seamlessly, and really embraced it, and then been embraced as well.
So we talked a little bit about players that will be playing for a job. This kind of falls into the best stories of training camp folder. Let's stay in the quarterback room and let's talk about Max
Yeah.
Bromer, former Gophers quarterback. A lot of people were very impressed. He's got a hell of an arm. He can process really well. I read Alec Lewis's story at The Athletic this morning,
Yeah.
just talking about, people were shocked. People around him were shocked he didn't get drafted.
Hmm.
How has he been able to digest this offense so quickly and earn the praise of Kevin O'Connell, who is not an easy grader at that quarterback position?
Yeah, I actually got to meet Max fairly early on this off season, just in a casual way, getting to introduce myself, say hi, talk to him just a little bit about, his college time at New Hampshire, and then of course being at the U. And I would say like personality wise, like similar things to what I said of JJ. And of course, like my snippet with Max has been small. So I really can only speak to my own sample size, but like I kind of got the same feeling of like, someone who was smart, someone who really loves football and like doesn't take opportunities for granted. Like sort of got all of that he could out of that smaller school experience, and then being able to come over to the U and see what he was able to do there in a season. And it's always fun too. I know he's not from Minnesota, but it's just the Minnesotan in me, and I know fans have been excited to see someone who played for the Gophers like stepping into these preseason games, and doing pretty well. The same kind of thing with where he doesn't seem to get super rattled if something goes badly, if he's sacked, if there's an interception thrown. I think the thing that impressed me in the game against the Patriots is, I did already mention this briefly, but he was talking post game, and he was talking about that 2-minute drive at the end where there was a 4th and 17 completion that was really impressive and kept that drive along or alive, excuse me, but then didn't end up capitalizing there at the end. But just the experience of having that 2-minute drive, and he said, this is the first time that this offensive unit, the guys that were out there, have run a 2-minute drill together, which is crazy because you think about like how much they're relying on mental reps during practice because they're not getting as many as JJ McCarthy or Sam Howell or even Brett Rippon, just by the nature of the depth chart, and there's only so many, snaps to go around. And so it's been fun to see him like go out there and kind of get some extended time, I guess, just to see what he does with that and how he is able to connect with players. He and a handful, I think there were like 5 or 6 other rookies from the team, they went up to northern Minnesota this offseason and went fishing together, and it's fun to, like, hear about that kinda stuff too, because 'cause they're just building that camaraderie. He seems like a really confident guy, not overly so, but just sort of, like, confident in who he is as a person and, really wants to learn all he can, so I'm honestly, like, really excited this next game. I'm assuming that all 3 backup quarterbacks will play, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm excited to continue seeing from Sam, from Brett, from Max, like, what those 3 do well. I think they all kind of bring, like, something different to the table, and, like, I know Brett was here last year, but Sam and Max being new, like, it's been fun to just see kind of that new rotation of reserve quarterbacks and kinda see what O'Connell can glean from each of them, what he likes about their game. I know that they've all really enjoyed working with Josh McCown. So that's another reason that preseason 3 can just be so fun, is to see, what the quarterbacks are gonna get going here after another week of camp.
And I think that's going to be one of the biggest decisions of cut day. I think obviously you have JJ making the team, barring like the most shocking thing ever. And then Sam Howell probably
I
as a
think he's safe.
QB2. Yeah, I think he's safe. Sam Howell as the QB2. And then you have Bromer and Rippon fighting for that third job. It's kind of like, does Kevin O'Connell want to get a pupil in his quarterback school, or does he want someone who's kind of an extra coach? That's going to be kind of the decision there. Another tough decision is going to be the RB3, Xavier
Mhm.
Scott, one of the most, I would say, more fun players of this
He's been
preseason
really
break.
fun.
Breaking
Yeah.
off a couple of big runs coming out of the FCS School of Maine. Of course,
Mhm.
this being my last show from Brookings, South Dakota, another FCS hotbed. But you wrote about both of them. What did you learn about Xavier Scott and his wife, McKenna?
Xavier has been so fun to get to know. And you mentioned the story that I was able to put together about him and his wife McKenna. His wife is so crazy talented, and has a super unique background in that she races sprint cars and stock cars, which I knew nothing about. And still my knowledge is pretty small, but I have been able to learn a lot by talking to her and getting to share their story. So if anybody didn't check that out yet, I'll put in a little plug for that. But just sort of Xavier and McKenna and the way that they're pursuing, childhood goals together and kind of supporting one another along the ride. No pun intended, has been really cool. But yeah, Xavier was here last year. So the Vikings picked him up last preseason after he unfortunately fell victim to final roster cuts by the Colts, and then he was with our practice squad last year. So not a brand new face, but of course, like, was on practice squad. Like, fans didn't really get to see much from him, and he was with the Colts during all of last offseason. And so this year, it's been really fun to see him get in, OTAs, mini camp, training camp here with the Vikings, and see what he brings to the table for that running back room. And he's a very explosive runner. It's hard to like describe, I guess, sort of the type of build or like runner that he is because it's kind of unique. And he was previously a receiver, and so he's got really good hands. But like watching him out on the field, like he's got good vision too to like find those holes and kind of like pop in where he can. And he just is so focused. Like you can tell that like when he comes out for practice, when he gets on the football field, like that is all he's thinking about. And really really driven. And so it's been fun to sort of see fans get excited about him. If people don't know, I have the opportunity to help run the live chat during games through the Vikings app. And so it's fun to see on there because we get a lot of fans, either international fans or just out of state fans who maybe don't see all of the broadcasts. And they've had a lot of questions in there about, who is this Xavier Scott? Like he's pretty fun to watch. He's got some good runs, and so he's definitely kind of a feel good story that would be awesome to see him get a shot here. We'll definitely see. I know there's going to be, like you said, tough decisions on roster cut day, but he definitely has been pretty impressive here throughout camp and in these first two games, and we'll see if he has any carries in Tennessee here as well.
And I'll bring up Miles Price. You asked to talk
Yeah.
about Miles Price here. 81
Yes.
yard kick return. What stood out to you about him this preseason?
I think I like Miles because he's just so smiley. He's so happy. He clearly just loves football. He's not a big guy at all. And he talked after the game about someone asked, it wasn't me, someone else asked him about kind of that fearlessness that you have to have as a returner with like not only obviously tracking the ball and catching it, but then knowing like you've got defenders just like bearing down on you, and sort of like how to handle that mindset. And he like thought about that, and I think he didn't really know what to say to it because he was like, you know what, I just like when I realized that this is something that I was good at, I just love it. I love being a returner. He said it kind of has a backyard football feel. And so, it's fun to hear him get excited about that. He was one of the guys that went up north fishing with Max. And he was able to catch a couple passes from Max against New England, and so he sort of said similar things about building those mental reps and building up that chemistry. And so of course it's really really awful to see Rondale Moore go down in the first preseason game. Like I was just heartbroken for him, having worked so hard to get back from an injury. And so it's awful to not have him able to go. And then that being said, seeing Miles like really trying to make the most of this opportunity and see if he can, kind of earn himself a roster spot that way has been fun. But yeah, he's another one of those guys that just kind of has energy for days. He stays after practice. He was the second to last guy off the field the other day, just working on, returns, working on tracking the ball, working on offense. And so really fun to see, and I was able to drop a little story on him today on Vikings.com. So hopefully fans can check that out too, maybe in advance of this third game.
So we've talked about a lot about Vikings players and their stories going into the third preseason game and roster cuts. I'm going to switch gears here and I'm going to talk about yours because you literally wrote a story. It is called Olivia the Brave. It is a children's book. For those who may not have heard about the book and
Yeah.
whatever, what made you want to tackle this project and what's Olivia the Brave about?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say, Chris, thank you so much for your support, both as a friend and like helping this come together, and just encouraging me there, and then also giving me, a chance to talk about it a little bit here. It has truly been like a heart project of mine. I think most people who follow me probably know that. I'm passionate about football. I'm passionate about my family. I'm passionate about my faith. And another piece of that is being passionate about mental health. And mental health advocacy. And A lot of that is because of my personal experience with mental health challenges, with anxiety, with depression. I have several people who are close to me who have dealt with that. And I have unfortunately lost a few people to mental health battles as well. So it's just always been something that's really close to my heart. I did the Getting Open series with the Vikings, which was really cool to be able to shine some extra light on that. But of course, that was, geared towards adults, older youth, what have you. And so it's been on my heart for a little while to maybe do something for kids at some point, but I just didn't really know what that would look like. It wasn't really like a concrete thought that had panned out. But my nephew, I have two nephews and a niece. They're twins, Audrey and Oliver, who are 8, and then a 4-year-old Henley. And Oliver, one of the twins, he has dealt with some pretty intense anxiety challenges, and it's been hard for me to see him struggle with those things. But it's also been really, really rewarding to see like the different resources that he has. His parents are amazing, but also like through his school, through seeing a therapist, the different like tools and stuff that he's been able to use to like really help him to thrive despite those anxiety challenges has been cool to see. And so, um, I remember he told me maybe 2 years ago that he had shared with one of his friends that he gets a lot of anxiety and it makes his stomach hurt. And the friend, not intending to be cruel, basically said that that was weird, or he didn't get that or what have you, which, kids are honest and they're going to say things like that, and that's okay, but it can also be hurtful to the person experiencing it. And so my goal with Olivia the Brave was, kind of multifold, I guess. I wanted to create a book. So it's about a little girl named Olivia, and her dog Tater Tot, which of course is after my own dog. And Olivia deals with anxiety and kind of normalizing it, explaining what that is. It's a very, very normal thing to experience, talking about ways that you can combat that, especially as a child, whether that is birthday candle breathing that we talk about in the book, or listening to music, or using a nightlight, or talking to a therapist, all of these different things that can be tools for young people who are dealing with anxiety. So I wanted kids like Oliver to not feel alone, and to realize that this is a really normal thing. But the book is certainly not only for kids who are dealing with anxiety. It's really for any kid, because maybe your child is not an anxious kiddo, but probably has someone in their class or, daycare or something like that who is. And so just to sort of help them understand what these feelings are, kind of give words to it, hopefully just continue to promote like empathy and kindness. And it's been really cool to see like the impact that it's had for kids, or even conversation starters between like kids and their parents. So it's been such a rewarding project. It's been really fun to do it kind of with Oliver, in a sense, and he definitely had some input on the book and was able to lend his 8-year-old perspective to it. So it's been really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and it's a great thing that you're doing because I think back to my childhood and going back. I mean,
Yeah,
it's something that's rarely talked about. The only thing I can think of, there's two things. One, I remember like our guidance counselor in elementary school had this thing
sure.
like don't clam up, and like it
Mm,
had been so long that I never, you don't remember it. Like I've dealt with
yeah,
mental health
right,
issues too,
right.
and like I, every time I thought about talking to a, mental health person, it's like, okay, well, it costs money and like, how am I going to afford this? And like,
Yep.
whatever. And like, I honestly self-sabotaged myself for a few years just because I didn't know how
It's
to deal with it.
hard.
It's
Yeah,
very hard. The other thing, I had a friend tell me when I was, kind of refusing to do the therapist thing. He was telling
sure.
me about a thing they had in Phi Ed class where they had to climb the rope, but it was impossible to climb the rope. And like the Phi Ed teacher was trying to teach them, hey, sometimes you just need help. But I mean, if it's anything
Mm.
like when I was in Phi Ed class, it's like, you loser, you couldn't climb the rope. What's wrong?
Right.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
just be an
Kids can be
embarrassing moment.
cruel.
So
Yeah,
so I mean, having a book and kind of teaching, because I mean, that's the other thing too. Maybe a kid doesn't have anxiety, but they have a friend who has it and they can kind of understand what's going on and maybe even help them.
absolutely.
I feel like the conversation has expanded.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, one of my favorite songs is a song by Shinedown, and it's called "A Symptom of Being Human." And
Yeah.
it goes into detail about kind of the thoughts and feelings and all that stuff. And some people even use that as like I can't remember what the term is for it, but like when they have a panic attack, they play that and it kind of calms them down. They take deep
Yeah.
breaths, all of that stuff. So it's very awesome. If you're out there and you want to check out, well, first of all, you can enter for the book. You see the code word
I'm
on the
excited to
screen.
give one away.
Yeah. So the code word is Olivia. Comment in the YouTube channel. You can also comment on the Viking Age X account by 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. That's when I wake up. So I'll probably check it there and like assign the numbers, and we'll do a random drawing. And if you win, we'll contact you one way or the other. And Lindsey will get you a book. Otherwise, how can people get the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I do want to say too about the giveaway. I'm really excited about that. I hope people are interested with the winner that we select as well. Like, if there's a kiddo in your life that you want me to personalize it to or sign it to, I can certainly do that. Otherwise, if people want to even just start out by checking out my website. So it's olivia-the-brave.com. So pretty straightforward. And you can purchase the book there, but you can also just read more about the background, about the process behind it. You can read some testimonials from other people who have purchased it. But yeah, I'm so grateful for the support. 100%. I've been able to donate some of the books to like some nonprofits and a couple kiddos who really needed it, and then I've been so appreciative of book sales as well. I just really truly believe in the message, and I believe that it can help anyone. I've done a couple classroom visits, and one of the things that I like to do is, how many of you have ever in your life felt like Olivia did in this book? And to be honest, like pretty much every hand goes up, because it's like, even if you're not a naturally anxious kid, like chances are you felt this at some time or another. And so, let's talk about it and just realize how normal it is. So yeah, I'm grateful for the support, and I'm excited to see who we end up doing the giveaway for.
So once again, the code word is Olivia. Comment by Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central Time, either on our YouTube channel or the Viking Age X account, and
Yes.
we'll draw a winner at random. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on, Lindsey. You can read
Thank
all of her
you.
work at Vikings.com. Of course, my work's over at Zone Coverage. I write about the Vikings along with the Twins and Wild over there. And then we also got the FanSided RBN network to keep up with everything that's going on in the NFC North. We got Dairyland Express for the Packers. We got DeWindy City for the Bears. We got Detroit Jock City for the Lions, and maybe a site that might appeal to Vikings fans too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I'll keep you updated on that. Most importantly, though, check out the VikingAge.com and get ready for the season, because this is the Viking Age podcast. It's the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. I am Chris Schad at The Real Chris Schad. She is Lindsey Young at Lindsey MN Sports. That's Lindsey with an E. And we do this every week right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel and in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. For Lindsey Young, I am Chris Schad. 4 letters, 1 word, Skull.